first slide will give you a definition, a formal definition basically. So you set a lot of practices and principles basing on which the project is operated on, right? So divide the project into various different tasks which will help you achieve a common goal. Okay, so that is the thing which Agile helps us to do. Okay, so as हम कौन को सीखिबा, we'll learn what is a user story. Okay, how to create backlogs. These are terms which are used, not very difficult, but then that is something which we'll learn. What is an iteration and how do we plan an iteration? How do you progress, track the progress of an iteration, and finally how we prepare the reports and the burn down chart, right? The burn down chart means how much work has been completed, how much is left, so that is a burn down. So the amount of work that is done is known as a burn down. Okay, so these are the things which we'll learn. Moving to the next slide which we'll have. So Agile again is a methodology, right? Okay, so again it has some frameworks, just the way we have for languages. Okay, for Ruby we have what framework? For PHP what framework? Y, that is Y. Okay, the Y framework. So similarly for .NET for C# you have .NET framework. So same thing is for Agile. So Agile is a methodology which has frameworks, and till date we have 3 major frameworks. Okay, one is Scrum, another is XP, and the other one is Lean Software Development. Okay, the type of company we are and the nature of work we do, after analyzing all 3 of these frameworks, Scrum is the right framework which applies and is suitable for our type of working. Okay, so we'll learn Scrum more in details and will not go into XP and Lean development. Okay, XP stands for Extreme Programming. Microsoft follows XP. Okay, so we'll move to the next slide. Now this is an example of a company called Sprinting Safari. Okay, so it's a African based company. It's a travel agent. So you have like land safaris, tiger safaris in Africa. So this company organizes a safari for people in Africa, Kenya or South Africa, and organizes it. They have a system which is pretty old, a booking system which is pretty old, and they want to modernize that system to a new platform where online booking is happening, online payments are happening. Okay, this is a very typical example of a requirement which comes to us, right? So if you look at the requirement that come to us, this can qualify as a requirement which generally come to us. Okay, now they have a time frame. They want this to be completed by the next rainy season. Now for them the rainy season starts in October, November, because they are in the southern hemisphere. Now for us it's summer, for them now it's winter. Before the rainy season starts, they want this to be complete. Ideally, if you look 10 years down the line, if someone has asked for a software development, then they would not have set a time frame for it. But now the demand is such that any software that is being developed has to have a time frame. No one can go ahead and say that I don't know how much time it will take. Okay, it's not only about software; it's about development. Building work or road work. So there has to be a time limit set to it. So now from this month to October, we have around 3 to 4 months time. That is the time frame which is required to complete this activity, right? So they approach our development team, let's say Agitus, and ask them to start working on this. Okay, so now how should Agitus approach this project using Scrum? Okay, so if you move to the next slide, for us, who is a product owner? Sprinting Safari company, right? Sprinting Safari is the project owner for us. The project owner tells you the what he requires. So it's a combination of W's. Okay, what why, when. So these are, he will give you the W's of the project. Okay, so as a team we have to pick those things. Okay, now the project owner will always manage the product backlogs. I'll tell you what a backlog is, and he will take guidance from architects, testers, developers, just the way Priya does, right? So she has some idea. Okay, she has some ideas. She wants to build something, but again she wants feedback from us. So when we have meetings with her, what she says, okay, this is something which I need, but I'm not sure about this. So what is she expecting? She's expecting a feedback from us before actually we start work. So person who gives you the project is a product owner, right? So product owner has certain requirements in mind, but he may not be very clear about the requirement, and that is where he requires upfront a lot of feedback from us, right? It's very simple. Okay. Now what is a backlog and what is a user story? The entire list of requirement or the list of requirements. So you cannot, like, it's not good to have a requirement as a whole. You break the requirements in smaller parts. Each requirement is a backlog. Okay, that's a backlog which the customer tells you first upfront. So you break it into backlogs. Now for example, you'll say that I want a online form, I want a I want a payment gateway. So you break that form as a one backlog. Okay, and you break the, like, the booking into another backlog. Similarly, you have user management where he needs a profile, how many things the person has booked. So that can be one backlog, right? So backlog is a part of the user story. Okay, end of the day, it's a story which we are realizing. So it's a story which is being told to you. This is what will be the beginning. This is what I need at the end. In between, these are the things that will happen. So it's a beautiful story, right? So Girish sir told that day that project is what at the start of the project, it looks. He said something, no, that day. So the project looks interesting at the start because it's a story which obviously we visualize. You immediately visualize, okay, this will be the end, and this is where we want this product to be. Okay, if it turns out, then it becomes very good, right? But if it doesn't turn out, then you eventually you end up in a project which is not delivered well, which is not completed. Okay, but everyone has that, like, the customer is excited at the beginning, the developers are excited at the beginning. Okay, for a project to be complete, all these beautiful stories have to be strung into one thing, right? There has to be come to a common point. Okay. So requirements on the backlog are known as user stories. So the point here is, which I want to make it here, is that it will be interesting at the start, it will be interesting at the end if we take the project as it is. The project is taken in a formal way, where we meet this, the stories are met, the smaller parts of the entire backlogs are taken care of, will help us determine that this project will see the completion stage as well. Out of the 100 projects, if you take 100 as an average, 90 projects fail, only 10 of them succeed. Okay, it's just like surviving in the wild. Okay, so if there are like 1,000 turtle babies, 1 out of 1,000 will survive. So that is what these projects are also. Now, failures may be of different reasons, but as a company, we should not fail. The project should not fail because of development lags, right? So we should ensure that everything is there in place. We have a backlog of stories, and we prepare the stories in such a way that everyone has, if everyone visualizes what the end product will be, then it will be easy to realize the product will come up, right? I'll tell you one example where this will happen. I'll tell it later on. Okay. So now the list of acceptance criteria which is needed is generally written in a way that as a X, as a user, maybe I want this to happen so that this happens next. So that is how you break it. When you take the requirement from the customer, so you break these things into smaller pieces where you fill in these blanks. Obviously customer will not tell you that okay, I want this to be done in something. There are customers who will tell you who know Scrum. Now one of our customers has, the next project they have asked us to follow Scrum. It's a coincidence that they have asked us to follow Scrum. But now the customer knows, so he knows he will give us a tool where Scrum will be there and he will tell us to use it. So before that, obviously we should be prepared to at least see, gain knowledge on Scrum. Okay, see these are all terms. Okay, we do it unknowingly, right? Now when we are taking requirements, we are also doing it. Now we'll say that okay, we are doing it. Why do you need a session like this? But then when we are doing it unknowingly, if that is not documented, that is not something which you are documenting, then obviously we will not be following it for a longer period of time. Like 10 days, 15 days, 20 days is fine. I mean, you may look at it and say that okay, we are up to the pace, or we are working on the project as per the plan. But then suddenly on the 21st day you realize okay, this is not something which the customer has asked us for, because we have not taken any review from the customer in between, or we have not shown this to the customer. Customer will say no, this is not something which I was looking for. It may just happen that you have understood the requirement incorrectly, or the customer is confused. But it's always good that right from the day one what the customer wants. The customer should also know, we should make the customer know in fact that what we are delivering to the customer and how frequently are we delivering to the customer. So these are the very basic things which we forget. That is where we need something to remind us. We need a tool which will tell us that okay, this is where we are at this point in time. Okay, probably in the next session I'll tell you how we'll use a tool and use the steps to realize a project. Maybe we take a project as an example and we start building. Now for us right now, the sprinting safari is the project. Okay, let's move to the next slide. So now a user story describes what the system should do in a way that emphasizes value to the customer. Okay, it will usually written in 1 or 2 sentences of everyday language. So you just put in what the crux of the story is, just describing it a bit, 1 or 2 sentences, maybe 100 words, 50 to 100 words, that is what we put, so that it is self-explanatory as to what the story will have. Okay, now there is a backlog, there is a product owner, there is a backlog, and there is a user story, right? These points, these are clear. Okay, so the backlog is a requirement and you are breaking the backlogs into user stories, right? Okay, the best practice for user stories is to write from the point of the view of the user. The template which we often use is who, I want what, so that why. So as the last slide was X, Y and Z. So that was what was written. So that is something which is written here as well. So okay. Then you have story points. Okay. Now story points are the units of measurement which will determine how much part of the story has been completed. How much have we completed? So that is called a story point. Okay, it's a unit of measuring the overall size of a user story. And again, story points are relative. It's relative to the story that we are telling. So how much story has been completed, the story points will always tell you. And this is something which the tool will provide. So it will give you a point that this much has been covered, this much is left. Okay, a story that has assigned 4 points would require twice as much as effort that the story has assigned 2 points. So that is how you do effort calculation as well. Okay, so that is how now that will also give you an idea as to how much time it will take. When estimating the time, it will tell you that this much time it will take. This is a generalized formula that these people have come up with after studying n number of projects. So this is a generalized formula that have come in, that if it should require twice as much as effort, okay, if it has 4 points, if you are giving it 4 points, it will take twice as much as effort, half the effort if it is 2 points. Okay, don't worry about it. There are those things we will obviously, when we do it practically, we will see how it is done. Okay. Okay, so iteration in the sprint. Now when we say that every week we are having a delivery, right, that is what we have for what? Vishandu. Okay. What have we said to the customer? That every week on Friday we have a delivery, a small delivery. So that is an iteration. Okay, when you have a small delivery that is done in a part of a big delivery, that is called an iteration. That is exactly what we have done for Vision. That is exactly what we have done for Eat Street, right? We have set a small deliveries for every, which will go live every week. We say, okay, this much will go live this week, this much time we have, this much will go live this week. So in a way, we are engaging the customer. We are making sure the customer is engaged. Customer is knowing that, okay, these people are working, people are doing something, rather than waiting for something to happen at the end and then realizing that this is not something which I wanted. Okay, so each delivery, small delivery as a part of the entire delivery is called an iteration. Okay. An iteration varies from 1 week to 4 weeks. So depending on the lifespan of the project, it varies from a week to 4 weeks. Generally, you don't extend the iterations further. 5th week, 6th week is not what an iteration should be. Okay, may just have exceptions, but then we should not extend the iterations to more than 4 weeks. So for us, for this project, obviously we have an iteration for 1 week. So similarly for sprinting Safari, we can break that requirement into different iterations. Again, each iteration will have some backlog and some story. Okay, this is what we are building up. Okay, so this is what the hierarchy will become. Okay, so each iteration delivers another increment of tested product functionality. That means when you are delivering, that means you have ensured that, okay, this is also tested. So ideally what you should do, if a delivery is for 1 week, the timeline is for a 1 week's delivery, you should complete 1 day prior to the delivery date, where it gives you time to test it, and you find definitely, you will find some issues or the other, which we don't do. We complete and we say that this is complete, we directly deploy it. 90% of the cases that happens. Okay, so keep 1 day where you can test it, only test it. There should not be any work. Just maybe at the last, if it is for 2 weeks, probably keep for 2 days. If it is for 1 week, keep it for 1 day. Make sure that you have some time for testing. You test it, retest it, and then when you are delivering, it's a tested delivery. It's not something which is not tested. Okay, whatever you are delivering should not break. Okay. During the iteration, your development team will provide updates on the task progresses as they begin work and complete activities. Okay, this is often done in a daily stand-up meeting. You can have a stand-up meeting daily for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, where you review how much work has been done and how much work has been left. Okay, how much work has been done and how much work has been left, but make sure that the day's work is complete. Don't drag. You say that, okay, we have a delivery on Friday, let's relax till Thursday. That is what generally happens. That is what human tendency is. So if you have daily review meetings, you get to know that, okay, I have not finished this much of work. Maybe the delivery manager who is looking into it, the person who is dealing with the customer, will remind, okay, this is not complete, come on, you have to complete it today. That is where the daily meetings help. It may be a short meeting, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? So it will help. So it's Scrum tells us that you should have a daily meeting and you should update the progress of the work on a daily basis. Okay. Then you move to the tasks which are finished. The user story reaches to the completed state. If some task is complete, obviously the user story will inch further to a completed stage. The product owner then reviews the story. You then deliver it on the last day. You deliver it to the product owner on the last day and say, hey, have a look at this. Let's say for Sprinting Safari, we have completed the reservation form, we have inserted everything, and that part is done. Okay. Now the Sprinting Safari owner will have a look at that part and say, okay, fine, this is good, this looks good, let's proceed. Or if he says that no, this is not something which I want a change in here. That is what generally happens. That is what we complain as well. Okay, the customer keeps on changing requirements, and customer will keep on changing requirements. It's a tendency of a customer. You as a customer will never go to a shop and buy a shirt which you see first. You'll see, okay, this is what I have seen. Then you go ahead and what do you say to the person who is displaying? You'll say, do you have any shirt which is similar to this? Maybe a button like this or that. right? Now he'll say, no, I don't have any other shirt, this is the only shirt. What do? You leave. It's a general tendency of a customer. Customer will obviously say that they want a change, they want some toppings when you go out to eat. Maybe you want some somebody wants more chili powder to it, somebody doesn't want that. These are the things which the customer will obviously change. Similarly with the products as well. When we by the time we deliver something, maybe he will go ahead and show it to his friends, peers, or some of your colleagues or some end users as well, and take some feedback. Based on the feedback, the person might just have some changes as well. So there what will happen now, that will also impact your next iterations as well. If there is some feedback that is coming, that will impact your next iteration. And that is where you have to create another story where you accommodate these things. So that will ensure that okay, this your work as per the next delivery lines are not hampered. But yes, if that is something which is a very technical snag where you have done a mistake and the user is not able to move, you have to fix it immediately. Okay. For each street, what happened that day? You made a delivery, right? You made a delivery, but that was buggy. That calculation or something was not working. That was a showstopper, right? Showstopper means the show is stopped. I mean, no one is able to move ahead. Okay. So as a remedy, what did you do? We had delivery checkpoints, endpoints. What did you do? We did a rollback. How much time did it take? 2 minutes. That is where you should be prepared. If that iteration is not up to the mark and the customer has been given, you should be able to roll back. That is where a version control system is coming into action. But if you don't have that system, you don't have any way to revert back. You'll spend a lot of time again writing that same piece of code which was already working, which you have overwritten as well. Okay, you override something, and then you do, and then in chaos you'll push in more bugs because you are focused on that particular thing. So that point in time, what should you do? You should roll back your release, roll back to the previous iteration maybe. Okay, and then ask some time, communicate to the customer that okay, this is the time which will require, and on that previous release fix that thing, because till that point the system was working. So something in between that point and this point, something has happened which has given this issue. So your point testing point should be something in between that. So that is how you diagnose. That is how a good doctor and an ordinary doctor differentiates. And when you go to a doctor will give you medicine, and he will basically give you medicine on a hit and trial basis. Okay, if this is working, then you will start thinking that this should be the disease. But that is not how it should happen. You should break down the disease to a very smaller point, and that is what you should always do, and then you give the right medicine to the person. A good doctor will always wait for test results, not give you medicines immediately. Wait for the test results to come. Basing on that, he will give you the. So immediately when the customer is panicking, just cool that person down and tell okay, just rolling back, nothing will happen, and just give us this much of time, we'll come up with a solution. By that time you should be able to fix it, because you know where the pain area is, rather than looking at the entire thing if you are not using a version control. Okay, so that is where your iterations will help if you are having a version control in place. Okay. I cannot say that using this tool everything will get solved if I don't have the process in place. So version control and this system will help you, and then there are flags which you put in that okay, this is under working or something, and then you put another story where the customer has some requirement, and you frame a story, and you put some iteration on top of it. That will make sure that the development is incremental. Clear? See, it's very easy. We do it on a daily basis, but unknowingly we do it. So it's always good that you put everything in writing. Okay. So when this finishes, you go into the accepted stage. And yes, if that is a showstopper, that means you have not done your testing properly. The end of the iteration testing has not been done properly. It should not come actually. That is something which should not come. If a customer is finding a bug, and it's something which you have not done on your part, you have not tested the product. for delivery. That's very much clear. Okay, it goes into the acceptance stage. Now I have taken this image from next slide. We have taken this image from head first, like it was a graphical representation. So you can go through this graph later on, and you can see whatever I've told you is what is there in place. Okay, so you have ideas coming in, then you have, like, the iterations. If you see, it's a pictorial representation, and that will help you. Okay, so so this is something which we will eventually do, and the entire Scrum thing is revolving around these 4 to 5 points, which is very easy. Again, the crux here lies the way we implement it, the way we accept it as users. Okay, anybody has any questions, I'll take up.